Good evening. How's everybody doing? Great to be learning with you on a Monday, Yom Sheni. I apologize for being late. It's just one of those tech things. I have no idea what caused it. I just had to start over, reboot everything, and then thank God it worked. Let's light up the darkness. Who's in the house? Bill in mid-Missouri, Shandor in the Bronx. Excuse me, Joe in the Inland Empire, Renee in Indiana, Karen in Northern California, Bella in Florida, Jonathan in Southern California, Tom in PA, Lorraine in Texas, Yosef in Englewood, New Jersey, Aoife in Florida, Frank in San Pedro, Spencer in Connecticut, Ella in Southern California, Mickey in New Jersey, Marjorie in Georgia, Alan in New York City. Welcome, everybody. Somebody raised a question, reached out to us privately, who doesn't live on the East Coast. I was really touched by this, but who is thinking about our friends on the East Coast and thinking that on Fridays in the winter, when we start our class at noon, so it's getting really close to Shabbos on the East Coast. So I'm thinking that perhaps on Fridays we'll start, at least during the winter when Shabbos comes in so early, I'll try to get on the air by 11:30. I can't go earlier than that just because of the way my schedule works on Fridays. But I'm thinking I'll start at 11:30, Pacific. So what is that? 2:30 p.m. East Coast, and I'll make it short. I'll try to get a little bit deeper into the page on Thursday, and so make the Friday class no more than half an hour, and really try to stick to that. So start at 11:30 and be done in about half an hour. I think that would really help for people on the East Coast who are just coming a little bit close to Shabbos as you get ready. Let me hear some comments about that if you like the idea. I'm quite inclined to do this, just during the darkest, shortest days of winter when we're really up against that Shabbos deadline on the East Coast. Okay, our daf today is page 151 here in Tractate Bava Basra, the 23rd volume of the Talmud. We're continuing our discussion of Mishna number 7 here in chapter 9. We're picking this up on page 151a. About 3 paragraphs from the top. So the Gemara presents a mnemonic for the series of incidents which are stated below. So just to help you remember, if you were memorizing this, Zutra, the mother of Amram, from 2 sisters, Rav Tovi and Rav Dimi and Rav Yosef. It kind of just highlights of what's coming up today. Okay. The mother of Rav Zutra Bar Tovia wrote a deed granting her property to Rav Zutra Bar Tovia, explaining that she was doing so because she wanted to get married to Rav Zevid, and she did not want him to acquire her property. Right. So this is something we saw yesterday. That if a woman doesn't want to bring property into a marriage at all, she could take it back when she leaves the marriage, right? If they get divorced or her husband dies, she'll get that property back. But during the marriage, so her husband is going to be able to use that property farm it, keep the produce, etc. This is a right that he has, which is kind of in return for the fact that he undertakes to sustain his wife and provide for all her needs. But if a woman has property and doesn't want to make it available to her husband during her marriage, so she can give it to someone else, write a deed of gift to someone else. And if she writes all of it away, right, gives all that property, all of her property away, then it's clear that the reason she's doing this is to shelter it from her husband. And then when that marriage ends, she can get it back. In the same way that a person on his deathbed who gives away all of his property and then he recovers, he can retract that gift. We know that because he didn't leave anything for himself to live off of. If he reserves some part for himself, then the gift would be a valid gift and he could not retract it. But similar to that, we have this idea that a woman can shelter her property from a marriage if she gives all of it away, and then when the marriage ends, she can get it back. Okay? So this is the situation here. So she gives it all to her son, Rav Zutra Bar Tovia, so that she can get married to Rav Zevid, and then the property won't be available to Rav Zevid while she's married to him. She married Rav Zevid, and then he divorced her. Okay, so the marriage ended. She came before Rav Bava Bar Abaye to claim her property from her son. Really? She had to litigate to get it back from her son? Oy. Rav Bava said, well, she transferred her property because she wanted to get married, and she married. So since her intention was fulfilled, even though she subsequently was divorced, the gift is a valid gift. Now that is contrary to the law that we just learned yesterday, right, earlier on this page. And so now Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehoshua, said to Rav Bava, right, who judged her case, is it because you come from a line of truncated people, meaning descended from the house of the high priest Eli, who was cursed, and members of his family tended to die young, that you say truncated, meaning unsound matters? This is quite a harsh thing to say, but he's saying, how can you judge like this, contrary to the law? Even according to the one who says that the deed of a woman who shelters her property from her intended husband effects acquisition, and the woman cannot reclaim the property. Well, this matter applies where she did not reveal her intentions in transferring ownership of her property. But here, she revealed her intentions, that she transferred the property because she wanted to marry. And she married. But then she was divorced. Therefore, she is no longer married and she can reclaim the property. And so the incident ended with she got the property back per the law that we learned yesterday. Next incident. The mother of Rami Bar Chama wrote a deed in the evening granting her property to Rami Bar Chama. In the morning of the following day, she wrote a deed granting her property to his brother, Rav Ukva Bar Chama. So this is a woman who has property of her own, and she's on her deathbed. This is a deathbed incident, even though it doesn't say that yet. But here's the point, right? She wrote a deed in the evening granting her property, presumably all her property, to Rami Bar Chama, to her son. And in the morning the following day, she wrote a different deed granting all of her property to a different son, to Rav Ukva Bar Chama. Now, what happened here? When she wrote the deed the night before, granting all her property to one of her sons, we say that a person on her deathbed can do that. Now, since it was all the property, if she recovers, she can retract the gift. But in the end, she dies. But then what happens in the morning? There's another deed where she grants all of the property to a different son. Now, if this was a bequest, right, if she's saying that my son will inherit all of my property, and then later she says, no, a different son will inherit all of my property, okay, well then we're going to certainly go with the last will and testament. But that's not what this is. This is a gift. So if she already gave everything away to one son, how can she then give it all away to another son in the morning? The only way that that would work is if what she gave at night, she retracted that gift, and then she gave it away in the morning to a different person. Well, does the gift in the morning constitute a retraction of the gift the night before? And therefore the gift of the morning is the final and valid gift? Let's see. So in the morning of the following day, she wrote a deed granting her property to his brother, to Rav Ukva Bar Chama. So Rami Bar Chama, the brother who got the gift first the night before, right? So after she died, right? And now the brother who received it the next morning, he's saying, well, she gave it to me, it's all mine. And so the brother who thought it was his when he got the gift the night before came before Rav Sheshis. He went to get an opinion from a Dayan, right? From a very prominent rabbi, Rav Sheshis. He came before Rav Sheshis, and what did Rav Sheshis do? He established him as the owner of the property, as the deed transferring the property to him preceded the gift to his brother. So the one who got it first got it. But the one who got it in the morning, Rav Ukva Bar Chama, he went to a different judge. He went to Rav Nachman. And Rav Nachman established him, the son who received it in the morning, the later gift, established him as the owner of the property. So very difficult situation right now. We have two, first of all, both of the sons are sages. And then they went and consulted more prominent sages, and each got a favorable opinion to himself. So who is going to be the owner of the property? So the two judges now consult with each other. Rav Sheshis came before Rav Nachman and said to him, what is the reason that the master established Rav Ukva Bar Chama as the owner of the property, the one who got it second, the one who got it the next morning? If it is because she retracted her gift, but didn't she die? We only talk about retracting a gift if the person on the deathbed recovers. She didn't recover. She died. Since the gift of a person on his deathbed is considered valid, so then Rami Bar Chama already acquired the property the previous evening. Rav Nachman said to Rav Sheshis, this is what Shmuel says. With regard to the gift of a person on his deathbed, in any case where he could retract his gift if he were to recover, i.e., if he transferred ownership of all of his property, which is what happened here, then even if he does not ultimately recover, he can retract the gift. So the awarding of all the property the next morning to a different brother acted as a retraction of last night's gift. Since it was all the property being given away, they could retract if recovering from the deathbed. Therefore, they can still retract while on the deathbed. And so the first brother, Rami Bar Chama, out of luck, because the mom retracted that gift and gave it all instead to the other brother the next morning, effecting a retraction of last night's gift and giving it all to the morning brother, let's call him. Now, Rav Sheshis is not satisfied. He responds, well, wait a minute. Say that Shmuel said that he can retract his gift if he wants to retain the property for himself, right? So if he now wants to take it back, is when we talked about somebody wants to retract because they recovered from their illness, they want to take it back for themselves. That's what Shmuel said. But if he wants to retract his gift in order to give it to a different person, did Shmuel also say that he can do so? And Rav Nachman said to Rav Sheshis, yeah, that's exactly what Shmuel said. Shmuel explicitly said that the person on his deathbed can retract his gift, both in order to retain the property for himself and to grant it to another. And so the brother who received it in the morning ended up with the property. Next incident. The mother of Rav Amram the Pious had a bundle of promissory notes, right? So was owed a bunch of money, as evidenced by written promissory notes, which carry liens on certain real property, etc. Right? So a bundle of promissory notes. It's sort of like owning bonds, right? Say these are worth money because they represent a debt that somebody owes to us, and you can go and collect that debt. And if they don't pay you the money, you can seize collateral and get paid, right? So these are worth a lot of money. So the mother of Rav Amram the pious had a bundle of promissory notes. When she was dying, she said, let these promissory notes be for Amram, my son. His brothers came before Rav Nachman. Okay, so she has several sons, and she's going to take this very valuable bundle of promissory notes and give it to one of the sons, right? Take it out of the inheritance, as it were, and bestow this very valuable item onto one of the sons by himself. So his brothers object. They came before Rav Nachman, and they said to Rav Nachman, but Rav Amram did not pull the bundle of documents. He didn't make a kinyon, a formal act of acquisition. And since a kinyon was not performed, he did not acquire them. Rav Nachman said to them, a kinyon was not required because the statement of a person on his deathbed is considered as written and as though the documents were delivered to the recipient. We don't need the normal formalities of such a transfer because the person is on the deathbed. And it's not always possible to do that, but we want to honor the wishes of the one who is dying. So she gifted these notes to her, to one son. She said it was for this one son. And even though he didn't take them in his hand and pull them, it's as if he did. So he acquired them, and the other brothers can split the rest of the estate. But that particular large ticket item went all to Rav Amram. Okay, next incident. The sister of Rav Tovi bar Rav Matana wrote a deed in the morning granting her property to Rav Tovi bar Rav Matana. Right? So the sister of this man gave it all to him. In the evening, another brother, Rav Achadvoy bar Rav Matana, came and cried to her. Right? So there was two brothers and a sister. One brother, I guess, who had a good relationship with his sister, she decided to give all her property to him when she lay dying. But later in the day, this other brother, Rav Achadvoy, came and cried to her. And Rav Achadvoy said to her, now people will say that you gave your property to Rav Tovi because this master, meaning Rav Tovi, is a Torah scholar. And that master, meaning myself, Rav Achadvoy, is not a Torah scholar. Right? You're going to harm my reputation as a Torah scholar because people are going to think it's not just that you liked one brother more than the other, but that one brother is considered a Torah scholar and the other isn't. And he was crying about that. And she felt bad for him. So she wrote a deed granting the property to him. And then presumably she died. So now Rav Tovi, who thought he was going to get all the property, came before Rav Nachman for a ruling. And Rav Nachman said to Rav Tovi, well, this is what Shmuel says with regard to the gift of a person on his deathbed. In any case where he could retract his gift if he were to recover, then even if he does not recover, he can retract his gift. And therefore, when she gave it all to a different brother later in the day, what she did is retract the gift that she gave to you and instead gave it to your brother. So you're out of luck. Next incident. The sister of Rav Dimi bar Yosef had a tract of land in an orchard. Whenever she was sick and thought that she was dying, sounds like, either a person who's kind of, quite sickly and is often close to death, or perhaps somebody who's a little bit, dramatic. But at any rate, whenever she was sick and thought she was dying, she would transfer ownership of the orchard to Rav Dimi. Now on page 151b. And when she recovered, she would retract her gift. So this was a pattern. This happened a bunch of times. She gave all the orchard to Rav Dimi. Then when she recovered, she'd take it back. On one occasion, she was sick, and she sent a message to Rav Dimi, come and acquire my property. And he sent a message back to her, I do not want to come. How many times do I have to come, receive the gift, and you get better? And then it was all, so much time that I spent away from the study hall that I would rather not spend away from the study hall. So he says, I do not want to come. And she sent a message to him, come and acquire my property in any manner you want. Okay, so she's saying, look, I'm really close to the end. I don't want you to, lose this opportunity. If you really think that I've been too dramatic in the past, okay, so handle it however you want. This is the time that I want you to acquire the property. What did he do? He went and reserved for her part of the orchard. And he acquired the rest of the property from her with an act of acquisition. When she recovered, she retracted the gift. Now, all the previous times, she gave him all of her property. And as we've seen, if a person on a deathbed gives all the property and reserves nothing for herself or himself, and then recovers from the deathbed, they can retract the gift. So what did Rav Dimi do? Well, he set aside some of that property for her. So now she reserved some of the property, and the rest was given to him. Now, he arranged it that way, but she said, arrange it however you want. So now it's the gift of a person on his deathbed who did reserve enough of that property for himself. Let's say that he could get, eke out a livelihood from it. So then the gift to Rav Dimi of the remainder of the orchard, the bulk of the orchard, should stand. Now that she gets better once again, like she did every other time, and is expecting to get the orchard back, she suddenly discovers, no, you don't get the rest of the orchard back. You get that small piece that he set aside for you, but the rest is now Rav Dimi's. She doesn't like it. So she came before Rav Nachman to reclaim the rest of her orchard. Rav Nachman sent a message to Rav Dimi, come to court. Rav Dimi did not come. He said, what is the reason? What reason is there for me to come? Didn't I reserve part of the property for her? And I acquired the rest of the property from her with an act of acquisition. Therefore, the acquisition is complete. Rav Nachman sent a message to Rav Dimi, if you do not come, I will strike you with a thorn that does not draw blood. What is a thorn that does not draw blood? I will excommunicate you. It may not draw blood, but it's very bad. Very bad. All the more so for a sage, because he won't be able to learn with the other sages, nor teach Torah to anyone. So major, major threat. Inquiring into the matter, Rav Nachman said to the witnesses who saw all of this, how did the act of transferring the property take place? And the witnesses said to Rav Nachman, well, this is what she said. Whoa, that woman is dying, meaning I am dying, she said. She said she's dying. Rav Nachman said to them, well, if so, this is a case of one who issues directives with regard to his property due to his expectation of his imminent death. Now, we've been talking about somebody who gives away all their property while on their deathbed. But directives with regard to property in expectation of imminent death is different, right? Now, we've been saying all along, well, somebody on his deathbed, we're going to respect their gift. If they give it all away and then they recover, they get to take it back. If they give it all away except for what they reserve for themselves in case they should get better, then the gift stands. But in all those cases, although the person was on the deathbed, all they said was, I'm giving all my property to so-and-so. This is where someone says, I am dying, and therefore I'm going to give this property to so-and-so. When the person explicitly states that the gift is being given because they are dying, now the law is a little bit different. Now, even if it's only a partial gift, and they do reserve something for themselves, because it was given in contemplation of dying, and it was stated explicitly to be that, then if they recover, they can retract the gift. Even if they reserve something for themselves, they can retract the gift, because it is not the same fact pattern as we've been talking about in the discussion of this Mishna up until now. So since she said, whoa, that I am dying, Rav Nachman said, this is a person who issues directives with regard to his property due to his expectation of imminent death, and one who issues directives due to his expectation of imminent death can retract his gift even if he did not transfer all of his property, as he evidently granted the gift only because he expected to die, and he said so. So what happened? She got the whole orchard back. Rav Dimi got nothing, and presumably Rav Dimi is going to be even more slow to come. The next time she says, oh, I'm dying, come acquire the orchard. Next subject. It was stated that the Amoraim, the sages of the Gemara, disagreed with regard to a gift of a person on his deathbed that includes only a part of his property, right? So what we're talking about. The sages said the following before Rava in the name of Mar Zutra, the son of Rav Nachman, who said it in the name of Rav Nachman. This type of gift is, in some respects, like the gift of a healthy person, and in other respects, it is like the gift of a person on his deathbed. It is like the gift of a healthy person as, if he recovers, he cannot retract it. As stated in the Mishna, if he kept something for himself, then what he gave away while on his deathbed stays given away. And it is like the gift of a person on his deathbed, as it does not require an active acquisition. No kinyon is necessary because the person is on his deathbed. Rather, it is acquired by means of verbal instruction alone. Rava said to the sages, "Did I not say to you, do not hang empty pitchers upon Rav Nachman? I do not attribute incorrect statements to him. You got it wrong, and you're trying to give a color of authority by saying in the name of Rav Nachman, but you didn't say what Rav Nachman said. This is what Rav Nachman says. A gift of a person on his deathbed that includes only a part of his property is like the gift of a healthy person, and it requires an active acquisition. If an active acquisition is not performed, the acquisition of the gift is not effective, even if the owner dies." Right? So now we're distinguishing, even in the case of somebody on their deathbed, if they give away all their property, that's one case. And if they give away only part of their property, right, reserving some for themselves, it's a different case. Not only can they not retract, right, we learned that already. If he reserves something for himself and he gives it away on his deathbed, so he's not going to be able to retract that gift if he recovers. But, says Rav Nachman, the gift is only going to be a valid gift if there was a kinyon. Right? This partial gift, which is going to be non-retractable, does require a kinyon. If the person dies, we haven't covered yet, is it going to be a valid gift? It turns out maybe not. But especially if he recovers, right? If there was no kinyon, the gift was never made. The gift, this partial gift of somebody's property while they're on a deathbed, requires the kinyon, right? The recipient of the gift has to do a formal active acquisition. If they don't do it, it meant that the transfer of that gift was never completed. And so you don't even need to retract it because the gift was never made. Rava raised an objection to Rav Nachman from the Mishna, our Mishna on page 146b. If he reserved for himself any amount of land, his gift stands. And what is it, not referring even to a case where the gift was not acquired through a kinyon, through a formal active acquisition? No, it is referring to a case where the gift was acquired from him by means of a kinyon. So Rava asked, well, if that is so, then say that the last clause of the Mishnah, where it says, if he did not reserve for himself any amount of land and he recovered, his gift does not stand. And if the Mishnah is referring to a case where the gift was acquired from him by means of a kinyon, why does the gift not stand? And Rav Nachman said to Rava, this is what Shmuel says. With regard to a person on his deathbed, who wrote a deed granting all of his property to others without reserving anything for himself, so even though the gift was acquired from his possession by means of a kinyon, if he recovers, he can retract it. And the reason for this is that it is known that he was issuing directives with regard to his property only due to his expectation of his imminent death. So if he gave it all away, then even with a kinyon, he can retract. Rav Misharshia raised an objection to Rava. There was an incident involving the mother of the sons of Rochel, who was sick, and she said, my brooch shall be given to my daughter, and it is valued at 1,200 dinars, very expensive piece of jewelry. And this woman subsequently died. And the sages upheld her statement, even though the gift included only a part of her property, and the kinyon, the formal act of acquisition, was not performed. And Rava replied, that incident is different. as the case there is referring to one who issues directives due to his expectation of his imminent death. Ravina raised an objection to Rava from a Mishna tractate Gittin, in the case of one who says, give this get, this bill of divorce, to my wife, or give this bill of manumission to my slave, and then he dies. One should not give it after his death. You can't give a get to a woman after her husband dies. Why? Because she's a widow. A widow can't get a divorce. She already became a widow. It's too late to give her a get. And evidently it's the same. The master cannot free his slave after the master has died. If the master had heirs, that slave has already been inherited by his heirs. But if one says, give 100 dinars to so-and-so, and then he died, one does give the recipient the money after his death. And this indicates that a gift of a person on his deathbed that includes only a part of his property does not require a kinyon. And from where can one learn that the money was not acquired from him by means of a kinyon? This is learned from the fact that this law was juxtaposed to the law with regard to a get, indicating that this case is similar to a get. Just as a get is not subject to the standard laws of an active acquisition, so too, in this case of the gift of 100 dinars, the Mishna is referring to a case where the money was not acquired from him by means of a kinyon. And Rava replied there too. The Mishna is referring to one who issues directives with regard to his property due to his imminent death. He's acknowledging explicitly, I'm giving you this because I'm dying. Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehoshua, said, I'm almost done. Questions or comments, please get them in now. Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehoshua, said, the gift of one who issues directives with regard to his property due to his expectation of his imminent death generally requires a kinyon. And when it is taught in these baraisas that a kinyon is not required, the baraisas are referring to one who divides all of his property between different recipients. As in that case, the sages accorded the gift a legal status of a gift of a person on his deathbed. And the Gemara concludes, and the law is, the halacha is, that a gift of a person on his deathbed that includes only a part of his property requires a kinyon. Otherwise, it is not valid, even though he subsequently died, and the gift is inherited by his heirs instead. And the gift of one who issues directives with regard to his property due to his expectation of imminent death does not require a kinyon, and this applies only when he subsequently died. If he recovered, he can retract the gift, even though it was acquired by means of a kinyon. And that concludes page 151 here in Tractate Bava Basra. We'll pick it up tomorrow, God willing, with page 152. Not seeing any questions or comments on the document that Nina and I share. No questions. Okay, no questions. That's what I've got for us today. And with God's help, see you again tomorrow, Tuesday, the regular time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a great night.